After I left the United States Senate, Karen and I were blessed with another child. We had been trying for a long time. Now, I know with 6 children, you think you're trying for a long time after 6. We had. And we discovered joyfully that we were expecting another child. Right toward the end of the pregnancy, we found that there might be some problems. So, long story short, Karen had delivered our baby, Isabella Maria, early. They immediately took her to the ICU and did some testing. 4 or 5 days later, they told us that she had a fatal condition. She was going to die. She had a condition called Trisomy 18, which is like Down syndrome. Trisomy 21 is Down syndrome. It's Trisomy 18, which is far worse. They said she's lucky to be alive, only a 10% survival rate at birth. And of the children that survive, 90% die in the first year, most in the first few weeks or months. Well, we decided to do everything we could. She was our daughter. We were going to help her. And she did well. She sailed through the NICU, and after 10 days, we decided there's nothing more they could do for her, so we took her home. Never forget, the pediatrician is doing the exit interview with us. Kept saying to us, you realize your child's going to die. And yes, say, we have the internet. Yes, we know all about this disorder. And she talked about how there would probably be a lung problem. She would probably die because of respiratory failure. And so Karen suggested that we should maybe have a prescription for oxygen if she needed some help. The doctor looked at her and said, "You have to learn to let go." I said, "All we're asking for is oxygen." And he said the same thing to me. Well, then Mama Bear stood up. And so after we got the prescription for oxygen, we left and went home. We went home on hospice care. Little Bella did amazingly well for the first few months, but then she got a cold. She got sick, and that's a killer for children like this. And it was for her in the sense that she quickly went downhill, and before we knew it, her heart had stopped, she had stopped breathing. Karen was able to do CPR. We got the EMTs and got her to the emergency room. She did okay. She came back, but then a couple months later, she had the same thing happen. And this time I was home holding her when it happened. I'll never forget seeing her fail and not being able to breathe. We had a monitor on her. She finally stopped breathing, and I put her on the bed, and I tried to do everything I could to try to get her to start breathing again. The next thing I know, Karen comes knocking me out of the way with an ambu bag and does CPR, and she comes back again. We went to the hospital and with the emergency room. And there she is laying on the table. She's about 5 months old. And she has her hand out on the emergency room gurney. And I went over and I reached out and held her finger. For the 5 months leading up to this, I had been the rock in the house. I was the guy that held everything together. Karen would always ask, "How can you be so?" I said, "Well, this is how I deal with things." And it was a lie. It was a lie. I decided that the best thing I could do was to treat her differently, to not love her like I did, because it wouldn't hurt as much if I lost her. I remember holding that finger, looking at her, and realizing what I'd done. I had been exactly what I had said that I had fought against at the partial birth abortion. I had seen her as less of a person because of her disability. And I prayed that moment, please, please let her live. I promise. I'll do everything to commit to her, and not just her, but to every child like her. She made it. I remember walking out of the emergency room and I got a phone call from my 13-year-old daughter. Now, she was 10 at the time. And she said, "Is Bella all right?" I said, "She's doing fine. She's hanging in there." She said, "Dad, Mama saved Bella's life." I said, "Yeah, I know." And she said, "Dad, you didn't do anything." I said, "You'll find that to be pretty much the case with mothers and fathers."